everyone. Good morning.
You know, weather doesn't stop people in this great community, does it? Look at all of you here today. Thank you. And we all know why we're here. To certainly remember and with deep thought and prayer and pay honor to the great veterans that have laid down their life so we can enjoy this gathering today. But we're also here to remember the veterans that stand next to us today, that are in part of our lives, our families. Somebody in your family, my late dad, my uncle who still lives in Minnesota, I remember, who served in the United States Navy in the Second World War. So we thank all of you for being here. Maybe you started at Mount Avon, but if you didn't, we had a wonderful ceremony at Mount Avon. Now we're at this really special spot we call Veterans Pointe. And we're so glad to have all of you here. At this time, if you would, to my left, if you'll give our attention over to the flag raising ceremony with the Boy Scouts.
Attention! Color guard, raise the American flag. Color guard, lower the American flag to half mast. Post. All of the flags, raise and post to half mast. Salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This year we have with us the Stony Creek Marching High School Band under the direction of Lauren Staniszewski. At this time we'll have the playing of our national anthem. Thank you so very much. At this time, we're going to have the placement of the Military Cross, followed by the wreath placement from the Disabled American Veterans, the American Legion, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. At this time, Mary Ann Raffin is also going to do a special wreath presentation.
Good morning. We've had Grand Marshals since 1999. This year we're going to honor each and every one. 1999 was Michelangelo. Mike's not here today. He's in the Mercy Bellbrook Assisted Living Center. Russell Williams was 2000, and his daughter is here today to present his. Harold DeForest, 2001. Is there a family member of Harold's here? Harold? Everett Gary, 2002. Okay. Would one of the children like to take Mr. Gary's and put it on? James Mulligan, 2003. Robert Montgomery, 2004. Betty Williams, 2005. Jim Madsen, 2006. Ed Leafdale, 2007. Harold Lindsay, 2008. Jack LeBick, 2009. James Smalley, 2010. William DeZour, 2011. Gene Raffin, 2012. Gerald Canoose, 2013. Tony Deaton, 2014. And this year's Grand Marshal is James Williams, 2015. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Our first speaker this morning is a man that has such passion for our veterans. You know, you're looking at the improvements here at Veterans Pointe in the last couple of years was because he worked hard to get a government grant of just shy of $250,000, and all that money was put into this point where we remember and honor our veterans on a daily basis, just not today. And it's so important. So much of what you see here is because it's under the direction of people that work for him, do the work like Ed Leafdale and a number of people work for the city. You know, we get our support for this parade from the Charter Township of Oakland, the City of Rochester, and the City of Rochester Hills, because there certainly are expenses to this day that we pay for. And then we get, of course, from Guardian Angel and our funeral home. But I'm going to tell you that so much of what we enjoy at this beautiful piece of land right here, we owe to this man. Please give a warm welcome to the Mayor of Rochester Hills, Bryan Barnett.
Good morning. I have one question before I start. Are there any proud Americans in the crowd today? Well, we're in the right spot. It's my privilege to welcome you here to Veterans Memorial Pointe on behalf of the City Council of Rochester Hills and our 75,000 residents of our proud community. This is an area and a piece of land, as Mr. Modette said, that we are exceptionally proud of, a place where we stop to honor our community's veterans. We gather here today to celebrate America's heroes, to salute their patriotism, and for each of you to display your own patriotism by recognizing and honoring the many sacrifices that have been made for our freedom. Perhaps more than any other holiday, Memorial Day truly represents what it is to be American. It is a day of remembrance and reflection, yet also a day of celebration as we celebrate our community's heroes. When we speak of a hero, most of us think of a person who is admired for courage, outstanding achievements, or for great acts or fine qualities. But to those of you in the crowd who have lost a loved one or who have someone who is currently serving in our armed forces, the definition of a hero is much more tangible. It's a mother, it's a father, a son, a daughter, an uncle, or an aunt, someone given their time to serve our country. In Oakland County alone, there are more than 70,000 veterans who have answered the call to serve and who we honor here today. The Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps were established in 1775 in concurrence with the American Revolution. And now, 240 years later, they are still proudly fulfilling their mission to, quote, deter war and to protect the security of our country. And we are grateful here in Rochester Hills that heroic men and women continue to rise to answer that call, because as each of you know, our world and nation remains under attack. Bombings, beheadings, and bloodshed headline our weekly news, yet our brave military stand firm against these atrocities. Ladies and gentlemen, in America, our blessings are many and our opportunities are endless. And these blessings and opportunities are the gifts our veterans have given to us, to our children, and to our grandchildren. Their commitment, bravery, and sacrifice are what allow us the opportunity to keep that American flag flying high and give us the privilege to gather here to salute it. This day is not about baseball, barbecues, department store sales, or politicians campaigning. This is about our veterans. On this day, we remember the words of Harry Truman, who said, "Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can absolutely never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude, and America will never forget their sacrifices." By joining us here this morning, you are not only showing your gratitude, but teaching your kids and grandkids that nothing comes without cost, and to keep the memory and the traditions alive. There may be no school today, but there certainly is a lesson to be learned. Moms, dads, grandmas, and grandpas, teach your kids and grandkids to remember, to honor, and to refuse to forget. On behalf of the City of Rochester Hills, our residents, and everyone gathered here, we thank you, veterans, for your selfless sacrifice and your dedication. We will always remember. May God bless you, your families, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thanks.
Mayor Barnett, thank you for this land and this point, but thank you for your speech. At this time, once again, we're going to give our attention to the Stony Creek High School Marching Band, playing a salute to America's finest. Stony Creek High School Marching Band, we thank you so very much. My wife, my beautiful wife Mary, normally is a big part of this parade and this day, but when I left her home today, I've had this cough for about 5 weeks. You'll see me giving everybody knucks instead of shaking hands. It's a bad virus, and she got it so bad, and she felt bad she couldn't be here. So I normally don't do this part, but I have the honor to read a little bit of information about our keynote speaker, Lieutenant Colonel David Amason, United States Air Force, retired. Lieutenant Colonel David Amason grew up in Plymouth, Michigan, that's just southwest of us here, and attended Michigan State University and graduated in 1991 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering. He was commissioned into the United States Air Force and entered active duty in July of 1992. He has been assigned to 8 different Air Force bases throughout the United States, Europe, and Asia. Colonel Amason has been deployed 3 times to Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operations Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, and Operation New Dawn. Colonel Amason was a Master Civil Engineer officer and retired in August of 2014 with 22 years of service. Colonel Amason has been awarded the Korean Defense Service Medal, the Global War and Terrorism Exemplary Medal, the Iraqi Campaign Medal, the Afghanistan Campaign Medal, 2 National Defense Service Medals, 2 Air Force Achievement Medals, 2 Air Force Commendation Medals, 5 Meritorious Service Medals, and 2 Bronze Stars. He is now a member of our community and continues his public service as the newly appointed Director of Public Works here in Rochester. He is married to Stacy Lynn Amason. They have 3 children, Anthony, Nicholas, and Caitlin. Please give a warm welcome to our keynote speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Barnett, Mr. Modetz, fellow veterans, and the men and women of the greater Rochester and Rochester Hills area. Good morning. It's an honor for me to be standing here before you. I am humbled. This holiday weekend has meant so much for so many for so long. It marks the end of a season of cold weather with hopes of an enjoyable and warm summer season. There are barbecue grills being fired up for the first time this year. Many Michigan travelers are out on I-75 right now on their way to open up their cottages and gas up their boats. There are American flags proudly displayed from Maine to Hawaii. This is America. The land of the free and the home of the brave. We are Americans, and that is synonymous with we are free. Americans stand for freedom. When our forefathers set out to create this nation, it was an experiment. There had never been a self-governing body such like this in the history of the world. Could it work? Where citizens elect their leaders? Could it work where individuals choose their paths? Could it work where elected officials have peaceful changes of power after the people have spoken through elections? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Could it work? Ladies and gentlemen, I stand proudly before you today to say it did work. We are Americans, a self-governing body of individuals living free. Nations around the world use our Constitution as a template for their own pursuit of democracy. Unfortunately, there are also groups of people who view our freedom as a threat to the power of the oppressed. Call them tyrants, call them terrorists, call them dictators or bullies. Thomas Jefferson once said that the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. This begins to describe why we are all standing here today. There are people among us, people just like you and me. Maybe one is standing right next to you right now. These people are the people that move towards danger and not away like our human instincts would tell. These people stand between us and our enemies and say, you have to get through me first. These people put their personal lives on hold, cancel vacations, and miss the births of their children. Also, they can travel to places that you might call hell on earth. I was lucky enough that my service could be described as uneventful. During my 22-year career, I traveled to Afghanistan once and Iraq twice, but never saw anything too horrifying. There's a feeling that you get when you arrive in theater, a feeling that tells you to turn around and go home. You know that you're in danger, and danger could come from anywhere. You're scared, but you have to learn to deal with it. Not think about it. Concentrate on your job, your mission, and your obligations to your fellow soldier, airman, sailor, or Marine. And so you're just left with two basic feelings. One of extreme pride. Pride of being part of something bigger than yourself. You're actually participating in the defense of your nation, standing up for the oppressed, standing up for freedom. The second feeling is the feeling of loneliness. Even though you stand next to fellow comrades in arms, comrades who you took an oath with, your family back home misses you. They are dealing with struggles of their own, getting the kids off to school, making sure they do their homework, getting dinner on the table, and making sure that the bills get paid. So life continues as they worry about their loved ones in danger. The sacrifices of a military member and their families stretch far and wide. Preparing to leave for a deployment is a process. You need to freshen up on your soldiering skills. You spend weeks going through training, sitting in classrooms and out on the firing range. You learn skills you know could save your life or the lives of others. There's no dozing off here. This is the stuff you need to know to stay alive. After training, you board a plane, and for the next 27 hours, you will travel nonstop on just about every mode of transportation the U.S. has ever created. First on a commercial airliner, then waiting countless hours in terminals and military tents. You're loaded in the back of numerous cargo airplanes and experience riding in your first armored personnel carrier. No showers or change of clothes. You sleep sitting up. When you get there, you're exhausted, hungry, scared, lonely, and 11 and a half time zones away from where you started. There's usually a short layover at a base just outside of the combat zone. This is where I always told my team to store their gear, get something to eat, and call someone back home. Whether it's a wife, husband, mother, or father, someone needs to know that you made it this far, and I wasn't sure when we would see another telephone. It was usually during those long days, traveling to and from the combat zone, when people would thank me for my service in the airports as I headed to my next connection. A warm smile and an open hand. At first I was embarrassed. I hadn't done anything to deserve a thank you. I was an engineer, not sent to fight, but to rebuild. And I was simply doing my job, just like electricians, pharmacists, truck drivers, and everybody does. Nothing special. Just doing what everyday Americans do, make things better. But then I realized they weren't thanking me, David Amason. They were thanking everyone. Everyone in uniform, everyone who was in the military, everyone who has ever been in the military. Veterans, wounded warriors, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Our fallen heroes. Which brings us to today, Memorial Day. A day not only to open up your cottage or fire up your barbecue, but a day to remember that we are Americans and we stand for freedom. This is the best nation in the world, and I've seen quite a few. We have the best medical facilities, We have the best schools and universities. We have the best inventors, the best lawyers, the best doctors, the best engineers, and we have the best heroes. Today is our day to appreciate them, to thank them, and to remember them by decorating their graves. Again, I thank you for this awesome honor to speak to you today. I thank you for coming out to this ceremony, and I thank you for being Americans. The world would be a different place without us. I had a quote hanging on my office wall for years. I don't know who said it. I always attributed it to an unknown author. But it read, "To be born free is an accident. To live free is a privilege." And to die free is a responsibility. Happy Memorial Day to everyone, and God bless America.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel David Amason. You know, we didn't think with the weather today, we thought with the low ceiling, it looked like it was going to rain right away, we would get our flyover, but it was at the right time. We should have it during the keynote speaker and to honor him, and it was just a beautiful, perfect timing. Our next person that's she's going to sing us a song. You know, there's an expression, I believe, behind every good, great man, there's a good woman. I really believe it's behind every good man, there's a great woman. And truly, it's no different in this case. The mayor of Rochester Hill, Brian Barnett, is married to this beautiful lady, and she's got a beautiful voice. Please give a warm welcome to Corinne Barnett.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that brought my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious is that grace appear, the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Feel free to sing the last chorus. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was blind, but now I see.
Once again, Corinne Barnett. Beautiful. Thank you, Corinne. You know, the committee that has run the Memorial Day Parade, I believe, for 28 years, was taken over about 20-something years ago by a lady named Carrie Williams. And not only does she make it a friend affair, but she makes it a community affair, and she makes it a family affair. And our next person that's going to introduce our Grand Marshal this year is none less her nephew, Gary Williams. Gary?
Thank you. Each year on Memorial Day, we gather to remember our heroes who have fallen for our own freedoms. And one way we do this is to recognize the story and the legacy of one very special community member. This year's 2015 Memorial Day Parade Grand Marshal is Mr. James Wilson. As we celebrate James, we would also like to take a moment to recognize his family, including his wife, the late Mary, who passed 13 years ago, his daughter, Ann Williams of Rochester Hills, his 2 living brothers, and his many nieces and nephews. James served in the United States Army from 1953 to 1955, reaching the rank of corporal. He served in many different capacities, including as a medic and also as an information and education non-commissioned officer. During this time, he encouraged his fellow soldiers to make the very most of their time in service. He helped his fellow soldiers by learning basic skills that would help them in their own lives, including teaching them to read, to write, and to perform basic arithmetic. Additionally, Jim inspired other soldiers to overcome reluctances that they may have by telling the soldiers that the Army was there to help them better their own lives through their service in our country. He challenged each soldier to take the chance the Army was giving them to better their own lives. And under his own leadership, many of them took advantage of this chance that they had. Additionally, today Jim reflects on his service in Korea. And he recognizes that even 50 years after his service, that the Korean people, even here in our local community, are very gracious for the work that he was part of in Korea. Jim noted that the Korean people in our community, 50 years after the service, called his local post to thank them for the service during his time in the 1950 era. Additionally, today Jim is a very active member of the community. He belongs to the VFW, the Sierra Club. He's a past member of the Kiwanis Club and is a very active in veterans programs. Please join me in welcoming and recognizing our 2015 Memorial Day Parade Grand Marshal, James Williams.
Thank you very much. One of my earliest memories was when my mother and my father took me to a parade. And the only thing I can remember that day, besides the excitement, was 2 old Civil War veterans in their blue uniforms and their Johnny caps and gray beards marching proudly. And I said to myself, you know, when I get old, I'd like to march in a parade like that. Little did I realize how fleeting that time would seem between then and now. My hope is that this day will war will be only a dim memory, and this day will be only to honor those brave men and women who served and fought and sometimes had to die so that our country would be free. And mothers and fathers will no longer have to watch their children in uniform when they march in a parade. Thank you.
James William, you're so deserving of this honor today, and we thank you for being with us. We're just going to pause for a moment while Mr. Williams places his wreath down there at Veterans Point, at the wreath placement. You know, a couple of years ago, I was at, it was actually at my mother-in-law's funeral, and I told my wife, I said, you know, I was embarrassed as we were waiting, people were starting to arrive. I said, Mary, your aunt is sitting there on the couch, and you left her name out of the death notice. And she said, what are you talking about? All of the years I was married to my wife, I thought Aunt Marty was her mom's sister. And she said, we're not related, we're just family. I love that expression. Well, there's a young lady who I've watched grow up as a little girl into this beautiful young woman. She drove all the way from Chicago. She passed thousands of parades to be with us today to sing at Veterans Point. She's not related to Terry Williams, but she's family. Please give a warm welcome to Alicia Clements.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Alicia, we are so happy you made that trip from Chicago to be with us. Our next speaker will be from the VFW, Mr. John Benzik. John?
Good morning. It's an honor to be here with you today. I'm John Benzik, Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 3908. I have a question for you. Why are we here today? We are here today to honor our brave brothers and sisters who gave their lives because of freedom. A veteran is someone who at one point in his or her life wrote a blank check, made payable to our country, the United States of America, for the amount up to and including his or her life. What a gift many of these brave veterans gave us. Unfortunately, there are people in our country who no longer understand or honor what these veterans gave us. We must also remember those who have returned alive, many suffering from physical or psychological wounds. They deserve our thanks too. We're incredibly blessed to have brave men and women who willingly respond to the call to serve our country, which includes periods of separation that can be filled with pain, stress, exhaustion, and resentment. Therefore, I'm thanking you in advance for offering your words of appreciation and encouragement to these brave men and women who need our support. Support from their families, support from their friends, and most of all, support from our country as a whole. As we celebrate Memorial Day, let us find ways to support those who serve. If you see a service person, take time to offer your word of appreciation. Or you may be in a restaurant and you see a service person eating a meal on a QT, pay for their meal. There are other ways to show ways of support, maybe packing goodie bags for personnel overseas. There are countless ways you can show your support. Let us remember to pray for the safe return of these men and women, for their service, their sacrifice, as their families and friends do each day. Your attendance here at this service shows that you do care. Many thanks to you. May God bless America. After the service, I'd like to see all the veterans. Would you please come to the gazebo? Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, John Benzick. Representing the DAV, Mr. Bill Desir will be our next speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to here today for our Celebrate and Remember on this Memorial Day 2015. Think with me for just a moment. If I were to ask you, do you feel you are a patriot? What would you say? And when did you first know you had those exciting feelings in your heart when the flag passed by? How would you answer it? Memorial Day trends to remind us that without patriotism, we would have no heroes here today. I gave this a great deal of thought and decided that my first introduction to patriotism came from teaching by example in my childhood. Grade school also came to mind when learning the Pledge of Allegiance and singing America the Beautiful each morning. Then there was grandfather, a veteran of World War I, my father, a veteran of World War II, and my brother and I of the Vietnam War. One of the most moving experiences of my life was a trip to Washington, D.C. to see the changing of the guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and, of course, the Vietnam War Memorial. At the wall, lines are long, of course. They usually are. Some families were there to search for the names of their loved ones, reported MIAs. And when they found them, and even they didn't, they left flowers and notes at the base of the wall. In the young people today, I see great hope for our country because no matter what we do to be done, I guarantee there will always be Americans, both men and women, who value their freedom and their country so much that they will step forward and unafraid of any challenge they might have to face to keep the peace. Today is appropriate for us here to honor and cherish the memories of all those who have in the past stepped forward to take similar challenges. They are our heroes, the veterans of all wars, they who gave all to keep us free here at home and abroad. Their sacrifice keep America the world's greatest hope for democracy and freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Bill was our Grand Marshal in 2011, Mr. Bill Desir. At the beginning of the parade at Mount Avon, we had the invocation done by Reverend Dwayne Kelsey, Pastor Dwayne Kelsey from St. Paul's United Methodist Church, and he's with us today to do the benediction.
As we part, let us pray again. Creator God, the source of all light and life, we come before you this day striving to hold to the memory of those who've gone before us. We would honor not only their memory, but their hopes and their dreams. We remember the soldiers of other times and places who gave of themselves in service to the causes of justice and freedom and even life itself. We remember, too, the transforming power of your peace visited upon your people that turned a nation divided by war into a people striving to end all wars, that transformed enemies of our nation into allies, that turned ordinary volunteers into heroes of valors and truth. Let us not forget this day that the end we serve is not of our making, but directed by your divine providence. Preserve and protect all who stand in defense of your cause, all who build up and bring life. We remember, O God, that you are the source of all peace, and for this we pray this day. And now may the blessings of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit rest upon us and upon all those who serve and their families. May we honor and remember those who have paid the ultimate price today and in all the days to come. Amen.
At this time, we're going to have the Veterans Honor Guard perform the 21 gun salute, followed by echo taps.